Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and today we're going to be checking out my October pages in my tarot journal. So I'm still using the same journal that I always do with my Traveler's Notebook and my Chic Sparrow Mr. Darcy buttered round cover. Again, nothing has changed on the inside, although I may have some changes coming up in November, which should be quite fun. So I am working still in my dot grid journal by Archer and Olive, which I just have strung into the back of my Traveler's Notebook. And this is book 3. So I have 2 other books from 2021 for the first bit of the season, and this last book is going to be for October, November, and December. Hopefully I should be able to make that, because this is what I've used approximately for October, so that gives me about this much for 2 more months, and I think that should about get me. But it seems to work pretty well for me. I seem to get through about 3 books a year, which to me isn't bad. So this is my cover page for October, and I have just done this pumpkin theme, which is something that I did not only in here, but in my everyday carry planner as well. I just did some doodling. These little hatch marks show up a lot in my everyday carry planner, which I will show on my other channel if you want to take a look at that. These pumpkins didn't quite come out as well as I wanted them to, but they look fine. I've also incorporated a lot of stamping, kind of trying to pull it that sort of spooky dark wood kind of vibe into my journal this month. I have some spider webs and some little spiders that show up throughout the pages. So I've just stamped out October 2021, and I didn't have any of the decks wrote in to start with. I just had my kind of cover page set up. I do share pictures of that in my journaling group on Facebook. I know I have multiple channels, multiple groups. If you're ever curious where to find me, just check out the description box below of any of my videos, and you'll find a kind of where to find me little list. I also have links on my website at bohotarot.com, because they do get asked like where all I am online. I do have 2 channels, 2 Facebook groups, and 2 Instagrams, basically. So anyway, you can find me all there in the various links of my videos. So this is the decks that I worked with throughout the month of October. I used the Les Vampires Oracle, the Madame Lydia Wilhelmina's Tarot, the Barbara Walker Tarot in a tin, the Witch's Oracle, the Darkwood Tarot, the Samhain Oracle, and the Zombie Tarot. I used these decks very specifically for specific readings. A lot of that I talked about in my monthly reflections. So if you want to find out more about any of the decks that I worked with throughout the month of October, be sure and check that video out. You'll find it linked in the description box below for you. I don't fill this in to the end, because sometimes the decks that I plan to work with aren't actually the decks I end up working with, or sometimes I'll switch, or I'll add, or I'll change my kind of layout throughout the month. So I do keep that open, and I just fill it in at the end when I'm done. So moving into my first spread for October, I did kind of a month ahead sort of reading, and I basically pulled 1 card from each of the main decks that I was working with. At this time, I did not have the Barbara Walker Tarot or the Witch's Oracle, which again is another reason why I don't do my deck list at the beginning of the month, because those weren't decks I actually had at the beginning of the month. I ordered them shortly into October, and so I didn't have them to include here in this particular spread, but I did end up using them quite a bit later on. So this was me just pulling 1 card from the decks that I have set out to use for October. I have kind of my message. The main message here was protection, and this is from the guidebook. As I've mentioned a million times on my channel, anything that's written in a different color is generally somebody else's words, thoughts, opinions, ideas, and anything written in this plain black cursive is usually mine. So I have this message here from the protection card, and then this here is the follow your own soul's path. This is from the rebellion card from the Les Vampires deck from the guidebook. So then I just have my card pull from the Darkwood Tarot, from Madame Lydia's, and from the Zombie Tarot. And this was just kind of my overview message for the month. Another fun thing that I did quite a bit in my journal throughout the month of October is I did a lot of letter stamping, which does take some time, but I love the look of it, especially during this time of the year. And it's just kind of a fun mindful thing to do. It takes a little bit longer, so it really gives me time to kind of just reflect on what it is that I'm doing in here. These are just black splotches that I colored on the page beforehand. I have, again, some stamping with the little branch stamp, and then I kind of drew a spider web in here. All of that was done before I put my cards in. I do get asked all the time, how do I get my cards in my journals? I do have a whole video series or a 3-part series on how I tarot journal. If you want to check that out, that's always linked in the description box below as well. But basically, I just throw my cards on my color copier and I reduce the size. Generally, it's 50%. There are a few places where I go a little bit smaller, where I have larger spreads, and I'll try to point that out. These are all reduced to 50%. So I just throw all my cards on the flatbed of my scanner. It's like a color copier, scanner, printer all in one. And then I just set the reduction to 50% and I make a copy, cut them out, and paste them in. It's really all there is to it. Nothing too terribly fancy. I, of course, do quarter round them so they look like actual little mini tarot cards. Another fun thing that I was doing was I was using a date stamp all month long, which was fun. And I think I like the look of that. I might continue that into November. So another thing that I did in October was the lifting the veil practice prompts that I did all month long on my Facebook group. If you missed it and you still want to go ahead and maybe do it in November, all the prompts are still there in the Facebook group, so feel free to come on over and join us, and you can just pop in at any time and grab the prompts, do them on your own. Feel free to even share them in the group if you want. I create very specific prompts, spreads, and journaling activities to help us dive deeper into practice. If this is something that you are interested in, this is a practice that I'm going to be incorporating into my memberships in 2022. So if you want to be a part of that on a monthly basis, to have prompts like this every single month and dive into that practice with the other weavers in my membership program, you can definitely check that out. I'll leave a link to that in the description box below as well. So here was our first reading, which was the revealing. And again, I have my cards printed out here. I was using the Samhain Oracle and the Darkwood Tarot for the majority of this lifting the veil prompt. I did towards the end of the month get a little kind of tired of using this deck, so I ended up switching to the Zombie Tarot, but for the majority of the month I used this deck. Here is kind of a wrap-up message from Bat, as well as here, and then this is my reflection. In this case, I did the actual prompts for each of the cards are written in gray, and so that just helps me determine where they stand out a little bit more. So here's kind of my writing, my reflection. Here's the card that speaks to the aspect of my life, which is one of the prompts, the lesson, and where I can apply the lesson. So those were the 3 prompts. I also did some little bat doodles, which are harder than you think they are, and some stamping here. Again, a lot of this is just stamping, some dots, and some minor doodling with my cards. So as far as decorative stuff, what I put on the page, it's actually fairly minimal, and it doesn't really take a lot of time. It actually takes more time to cut out the cards and paste them on the page than it does to do the rest of this stuff, with the exception of maybe actually writing my reflection, right? The other thing I did this month was I did the curtain along the right-hand side with lifting the veil for every activity or spread in my journal that related to that practice. And so I can really quickly and easily see which ones relate to that, because they all have this kind of black curtain here, which was a theme that I used throughout the month on the actual prompts themselves. So that was on October 1st. So then we get to my first weekly reading. I do call these my Monday messages a lot of the time, but these are actual weekly readings. So I will pull my 3 cards for the whole week. All of this month, I pulled my 3 cards on Monday, did my reflection, and then on Friday, I came back and kind of looked at my cards again and looked at what had been going on that week. That's been a wonderful practice. A lot of times I do check in on Wednesdays, but because we had the lifting the veil going on, I only did it on Mondays and Fridays this particular month. So I have my 3 cards here. I was using the Les Vampires Oracle and the Madame Lydia's. I love these 2 decks together. They work so beautifully. The little stamping here is always a little phrase that I've picked out of the Les Vampires guidebook, which is fun. My weekly readings, I also trimmed the pages in this border, and you'll see that I did that every week. Kind of like the lifting the veil, where it real quickly and easily helps me visually distinguish what is what in my journal. I know that this is part of the prompt, and I know that these are my weekly readings. So kind of like a week ahead type of a thing. It just lets me be able to real quickly and easily tap into that. This page is really, really simple. It's just the border, my 3 cards. I just hand wrote Monday, stamped the date with my little stamp, stamped out the little phrase from the nightmare card. This is just a flower stamp. Here's my message from Monday. I came back on Friday, just again, wrote Friday in Tombow, stamped out the date and my reflections. Really quick, easy, and simple. Journaling, tarot journaling doesn't always have to be a super elaborate process. But sometimes that's fun too. So again, here's another lifting the veil. This is actually 2 different spreads in one. So because I created the prompts, I knew that the activity on the 4th related to the activity that was going to be on the 8th. So I just did my curtain over here, and actually on the 4th, I just put this over here on this side of the page. So I had my mirror with my October. Apparently I didn't press hard enough and I didn't get the 2021 date there. So that was my card and the 3 keywords that I chose for that card. And I did some stamping, and that was the activity for the 4th. And then on the 8th, we actually came back and did a reflection reading based on those keywords. And so there's my cards for that. And then I have the prompts and then my reflections. So in this particular instance, because I knew that these 2 activities related, I just had left space. So you'll see that we'll jump from the 4th to the 8th, and then moving over, we're to the 6th. So how the prompt worked was we had activities on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So this would be Mondays. This was actually Wednesdays on the 6th, and this would have been Fridays. But again, because these 2 related, I did them together. So here we have the another lifting the veil with the mirror image spread. And again, here's my prompts, here's my cards. I did these all at 50%, and this is where I decided, oh, I need to shrink these cards down when I have a little bit larger spreads, because it doesn't leave me a ton of room to write the prompts or my reflections. So I do like the way it came out. Again, really simple, just the lifting the veil. I have my cards in here. I did kind of create little tags off to the side with some Tombow just so that I could relate, because these cards were, the way the spread is designed is they relate to each other. So I kind of noted that in there. And again, just some stamping. So you can see it's really, really simple. It looks really, really full, but these pages really didn't take that much time to create, because there's not actually a ton on there in terms of extra decorative stuff. It is mostly the cards and my writing. So moving into the next week, we have another weekly spread. Again, you can see I have that black border on here. Same basic setup that I did previously. So we have my 3 cards. This time I did write my prompts for them. Again, using the same decks, the Less Vampires and the Madame Lydia's. So here's Monday with the date. This again is a message from the guidebook for the Less Vampires, and this because there was some more in there that I wanted to include, I also wrote it as an additional down here in red. Just some stamping just to kind of fill in the blank space. Here's my Monday message, and I came back on Friday and recorded my reflections, still working with these same 3 cards. So here we have, again, another 2 readings, similar where they were related. So we have the Hearth Gathering that we did on October 11th, and this was my card, message and keywords. And then here was the reading on Friday that related to this. So again, I had done this on Monday, left this space here, and then came back and added that in on Friday. This was a card that related to that. And you can see I just doodled a little spider there just because. So here on October 12th, this is when I started incorporating the Barbara Walker Tarot. This was actually a Celtic cross that I did. When I laid it out on the table, it was in the Celtic cross pattern with the kind of heart of it here and the 4 cards down the side. I actually kind of like this layout with the 4 cards beneath it. I'm still doing my same normal positions that I normally do, I don't have the covering one in this particular one, or the crossing card. I only have a 9 card, but it's still basically a Celtic cross. And so this was something that I did in regards to a certain question that I had. So I just have my cards in here. These are actually scaled down to 30%, and I did cut off the tops and bottoms just to make them all fit. So I just cut it down to the artwork. Here is my prompts, the cards I pulled, the keywords that are on the cards, because the Barbara Walker has keywords, and again, my reflections, and I just did, again, some additional stamping and the date up at the top. So again, nothing real fancy. So here we have the next lifting the veil prompt, which was the Hearth Wisdom, and here's my cards, here's the prompts, and here's my reflections. Again, nothing too terribly fancy. I just stamped out the name, did my little lifting the veil so I could see it, added my cards, again, little tags for the numbers so that I know what correlates, and then just some plant stamps, nothing too fancy. This, I think, is my favorite page. Maybe one of them. There's a couple in here that I really like. I really like my cover page too, but I do really like the way this page came out. It was a lot of fun to do. So I did a brown border with a gold interlay, because there is a lot of brown and gold in both of these decks. And so I thought that was fun. This time, again, just my 3 cards. I did write what they were down at the bottom, because I realized that this particular deck copies very darkly, and sometimes it was hard for me to tell exactly what card I was looking at, so I started kind of writing those in. So again, I have my title, just Monday, the date. This is a little message from the guidebook for the Less Vampires. That was what I wanted to really hone in on. That's my focus point. I doodled some little stars from the star card because I wanted to pull that in. Again, there's my reflection from Monday, and then here's where I came back and did my reflection on Friday. So again, pretty simple. It didn't take long to create at all, but I think it looks really pretty. So here is another lifting the veil where we had the haunted spread. Now these I did scaled down to, I think, 25%, because there is 7 cards here and I wanted to get them all in, and I wanted to get them in the layout, because in this particular spread the layout did kind of matter. At least when I created this spread, I was really paying attention to the layout. So the positions were important, and so I wanted to make sure that I could convey that in my journal, so I shrunk them down even smaller. It does make the artwork really hard to see, but I do have the prompts and I do have each of the cards listed here, so that if I want to go back, I can get the cards out and actually look at them. So again, just stamped out the title of the spread, the date. I doodled a spider. This is just some floral stamping. My positions are noted with stamp again as well, and my reflections. Again, I've done my prompts and my cards in different colors, just so I can really quickly and easily distinguish what is what. And of course, I have my lifting the veil curtain there. This is probably my least favorite spread, but it was probably one of my most powerful readings through the month, so pretty funny. This was just a reading that I did with the Barbara Walker Tarot and the Witch's Oracle. This, I think, is when I got this deck in, and I was starting to play with those two together. And this was really just me asking a question. I have my cards laid out here. Again, the positions were kind of important, so I laid them out in my journal as the positions. You can see I did include the tops and bottoms in the Barbara Walker Tarot. I tried to make them stand out a little bit with some gray tombow behind it, but yeah, it still doesn't really look really great. And I didn't even come back to do any decoration to this page, which is fine. I have my question, I have my prompts, my reflection, a takeaway message from the Oracle card, and then the date. Really, really simple. It still looks nice, right? It's really easy to read, but it was quite a profound reading, so that was really wonderful. And here we have the last weekly reading for October. So here's my cards, my 3 cards for the week. My Monday, date, stamp the date. That was the takeaway from my Oracle message. This is actually some Happy Planner stickers that I just stuck in there. I just wanted to pull in some of that light color from her and some of the green from the background. And it was, since I had stickers that matched that, I just threw those in there rather than, trying to doodle something in. Again, here's my Monday message, Friday, and the Friday message. You can see I've done the same thing with the gold. This time I did the brown border with leaving a little space between the brown and the gold, which I thought looked nice because it kind of mimics the border on the Madame Lydia's tarot. I did some little gold spots, little gold dots. Dots are great for filling in white space. And I did, of course, outline my Monday and Friday in gold too, just for fun. So again, really, really simple, really quick and easy to create, but I think it looks really pretty on the page. So here was a fun one. This is the graveyard spread, again, from the Lifting the Veil. And again, the prompt positions were kind of important because they were kind of meant to mimic a tombstone. And so I shrunk these down, I think, to 30% on these ones and cut them out and laid them in here. I've got just some little plant stamping along the side, and then I've got just the outline of a tombstone. Not colored in or anything, it's just to give me the idea of that's what I was going for, right? We're kind of moving up into the tombstone here. I have the title, date, prompts, reflections. Same process over and over and over again, right? So this was a little reading that I did with the Barbara Walker Tarot and again, the Witch's Oracle. And this actually ties back into my monthly message reading. So here we had, if you remember, I had rebellion. I had the takeaway message was kind of follow your own soul's path. So I went back and I read this again, and then I came here and I pulled an oracle card and 3 tarot cards to kind of have a look back at October and how did I follow my soul's path? What do I need to know moving forward from that as well? And so here's my reflections. What's written in red here are the key messages from the guidebook for the Witch's Oracle. And you can see that even like the design I did on the page kind of mirrors that. So I did the big black over here with the little plants, black here with the little plants, and you can see I did the same thing here, but this time I included a little path here and some just dotted lines, again, that path idea leading to the date. So I can see that not only by the text, but also because the design is really similar to my main monthly message, I can see that these two things correlate, which is lovely. And that's something that I do like to do when I have a reading that is kind of in relation to another reading. And then here we have another Lifting the Veil prompt. So this was the death reading. And this one was fun. I do actually quite enjoy not only the practice, but the actual like layout on the page too. So I have the title up here, the date. I have just some little plant here and a little plant here. But this was basically we were supposed to go through our deck, find our death card, and then what was beneath it is the spark of new life, and what is in front of it is the old shadow that we need to release. And then we had some journaling prompts that related to those things. And so again, I have the journaling prompts listed here, and then my reflections listed here. And this one was just kind of fun. And it's fun to just kind of do it a little bit off-centered and kind of, you know, the arrows and whatnot. Just something a little bit different. But you can see that I have very much a common theme running throughout the whole thing. And the last entry is the actual Lifting the Veil spread, which all the prompts were related to all the work that we had done all month long. And we did it on Samhain or Halloween. And again, I used the vampires, the zombie, and the Madame Lydia's. You can see here that with the Lifting the Veil, the last week, I think, yeah. So the last week I had switched to the zombie tarot because as I kind of mentioned already, I was kind of done working with the dark wood at that point. So I did these prompts with these 3 decks, which was a lot of fun. So I have my prompts, and then I have my takeaway message from the oracle card in the center, which was what was to create, which I got the creator card, and then my reflections. And that's pretty much it. So you can see that it's actually got a pretty consistent theme throughout. I think it's really easy for me to flip through, and because of the way that I've designed it with the borders on my weekly message, the Lifting the Veil curtain on those, it really helps me to be able to see like what is what. And then for anything that's just a general reading, I did not really do any significant kind of indication visually as to what it is. But I like that I can really easily flip through here and get to my weekly messages, or I can really easily flip through here and get to any of my lifting the veil prompts, because they all have that same design along the side, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, it was, I think, a really good month. I really enjoyed the decks that I worked with for the most part. As I mentioned, if you want to hear more about the decks that I worked with and my thoughts on them, kind of a deck review, you can check out my October monthly reflections, and I'll leave that listed for you in the description box below. So I'm ready to get into November. Like I said, I might have some changes in my tarot journal coming in November. I can show you here real quick. I did add my decks to my deck tracker for October. So you can see I worked with, this is always fun. Last October I worked with Madame Lydia's as well, and I also worked with the Zombie Tarot, which were 2 decks that I worked with this year as well. So it's always kind of fun just to look back and see, you know, which decks I've been working with. It's also, I think, over time probably going to reveal patterns of decks that I tend to work with at certain times of the year, which is always kind of fun just to look and see what you have going on or what you tend to be drawn to at a certain time. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this look at my October pages in my tarot journal. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon for more creative tarot for an inspired life.